Easy all, welcome back to the Rat Cave. It's your boy Ratzi here for DJKit, and today I'm taking a look at the Hercules DJControl Inpulse 200 Mark II. So I know that I say this every single time that I start one of these videos, but I am keeping this video short and sweet because this DJ controller is an entry-level DJ controller. I don't want to overcomplicate things. I'm just going to talk through the features on the controller, what I like about it, and some little bits which I'm not overly keen on. So, let's get into it. Now, this Hercules DJControl Inpulse 200 Mark II, really long name by the way, I'm probably just going to end up calling it the Impulse 200 Mark II or the Mark II throughout this video. But this is, as I said, an entry-level DJ controller. It works with both Serato, and that's Serato DJ Lite, which it comes with because that is a free version. It does work with Serato DJ Pro as well, but of course you have to pay for Serato DJ Pro, which regular watchers of this YouTube channel will know that that's something which I always recommend doing. But funnily enough, when it comes to this controller, it's not that essential, to be fair. I would still recommend that you do it for like the functions that Serato DJ Pro unlocks. But yeah, with this controller, it's not essential unless you sort of want to record your mixes, which, you know, perhaps you're not really doing at this entry level. Anyway, this Impulse 200 Mark II works with Serato, Lite and Pro, but it also works with Juiced. And let me say, right, I've been doing these videos for like 6 years now, and every time I have reviewed a Hercules controller, I've been calling it D-Juice. So I found out recently that they actually pronounce it Juiced, which is Hercules' own DJ software. It's a great software. Don't get me wrong, the majority of Hercules' controllers are compatible with Juiced. I'm using this controller today with Serato DJ Lite. If you go over to Hercules' YouTube channel, they've actually got their DJ Academy where they've done a whole sort of series of videos using this Impulse 200 Mark II with Juiced. So I'm going to leave the Juiced stuff up to Hercules, up to the experts. So yeah, in this video, I will be talking about Juiced here and there, but primarily I'm using this controller with Serato DJ Lite. What I will say though, big announcement for Juiced, they have followed suit with all the other DJ softwares, apart from Tractor, and they have now got stems. You know, if you don't know what stems is, you've been living under a rock probably for the past year or 2 years or so. So it's really great that, that Juiced has hopped on the stems bandwagon as well. And I will say that the separation in the software does sound pretty good. You've got the 4 different separations. You've got vocal, melody, bass and drums options to take in and out of the tune, which is pretty common, you know, with those 4 across the other softwares, apart from Rekordbox that's only got the 3. What I will say, the stem separation does sound good, but I would say that Serato's is better at the point that I've shot this video. So then let's take a look at the controller itself. Now, this is a dinky little controller. It's not quite as small, obviously, as the Hercules DJControl Mix, which is a little thing that can literally like fit in your pocket. But we're talking here, this is the kind of Newmark party mix, like the Pioneer DDJ 200 kind of size. I guess it fits in the same kind of entry-level bracket as those controllers. But you know, for the size of it, you've still got the fundamentals on here. You've got the mixer section in the middle, which has got the gain. It's only got 2-band EQ on this controller actually. So you've got the low here, or like the bass, and then the high. There's no physical mid-range on this controller. Obviously you can play with that within the software if you want to get on your mouse, but you know, you could argue that the sort of the high and the bass for an entry-level controller, you don't really need a mid-range. But having said that, using this with stems, you know, EQing the sort of vocal and stuff, perhaps the mid-range, you might want the mid-range, so, you know, but it's not on the controller, but you can control it within the software using your mouse. Coming down here, you do have a filter on this controller, then you've got your headphone cue underneath and your master. Then it's a 2-channel controller, so you've got your 2 volume faders here and then the crossfader in the middle. At the top here, sorry, this is your browsing knob, and then if you hit this button here, it actually puts in whichever tune you've got highlighted into a preparation folder. And then at the top here, when you sort of selected the tune that you want, you hit load, this one here to load it into this channel, or load here to load it into this channel. So let's talk about the jog wheels on this Impulse 200 Mark II. The jogs here on each side, they are about 3 inches sort of on the top. It's like 3.5 inches if you count the sides as well. But like the jogs themselves, they do feel pretty good. Like, they're touch capacitive, which means that you can use them to scratch if you're touching on the top. But if you are mixing, the way that touch capacitive jog wheels work, you touch the top to scratch, but you go round, you jog the outside to slow the tune down or speed it up. But there is an option as well here where you can turn, that's called vinyl mode when you've got it on this touch capacitive mode like this, but you can turn that off by hitting shift and the loop button there, and then what that does, it turns it into just slowing down and speeding up if you're touching the top of the jog wheel as well. So as I mentioned, this button here, the secondary function of that button, by the way, when I say the secondary function on this controller, you get the secondary functions of the buttons by holding shift and pressing whichever button. You can see what the secondary function is because it's written in a white box underneath. So the secondary function of this button here was that vinyl mode, turning that on and off of the jog wheel. But this button here is a loop button. What that does, it starts a loop of your tune. And then what you can do here is you can use these 2 buttons to either half the loop or double the size of the loop. Now, one of the things about Serato DJ Lite is the loop size. You can only go down to 1 beat, sorry. The minimum and the maximum is 8 beats. So, you know, one of those things where get Serato DJ Pro, basically. I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, so they're the loop buttons up here. The secondary functions of the half and the ×2 here are actually a manual loop. So you can start the loop where you want and bring it out. And then to come out the loop, you just hit the loop button like that again. So then underneath, this is where we have our sync button, which pressing that button, it puts whichever tune you've got in both channels, puts them in time with each other, syncs the BPM so they're completely in time. But one of the features on this Hercules Impulse 200 Mark II is the beat match guide, which I will get onto in a minute. It's a really nice in-between sort of learning how to DJ like with your ears and with your sight, but without pressing the sync button. Anyway, I'll get onto that in a minute. So underneath the sync button, you've got your cue and your play. Now, with this controller, I should say that the buttons they're not sort of rubbery. They're like more of like a button, so they do kind of click. But you know, they're fine. They're a good size, considering the size of this controller. They're not tiny little buttons, you know. They are good size, and they're big enough for you not to sort of accidentally press the wrong button by mistake. So then over to the right of these sync, cue and play, this is where you've got your performance pads. And now normally when I'm talking about using a DJ controller with Serato DJ Lite, there's often 8 pads here. This 200 Mark II has only got 4 pads per channel. And the reason why I said about using this with Serato DJ Lite, when you've got 8 pads typically with a controller and you're using it with Serato DJ Lite, you only get use of the top 4. And then when you're using it with Serato DJ Pro, you get more options along the sort of the secondary options and the bottom 4 pads. You don't have that problem with this controller because there is only 4 performance pads per channel. So yeah, 4 pads per channel and also 4 pad modes. the pad modes on this 200 Mark II, you've got your hot cue and your stems, which are your primary functions, and then the secondary functions are the effects and the sampler. So as I said before, to get there, you press shift and whichever one is underneath. So we'll start with the hot cue. The way that hot cue works is you can put, you press the pads here along the song that you're playing, and it puts in like a marker. Then whenever you hit that marker, it will play the song from there. Perfect beginner tip here, obviously put a hot cue at the start of your song so that when you're mixing the tune in, you know, when you're trying to get it in time and stuff like that, instead of having to pull your tune back like that, you can just hit that button and it will take you directly to the start of the tune again. So yeah, that's how you add hot cues in. You just press the button, and then if you don't want them anymore and you want to delete your hot cues, you actually press shift and the button, and there you go, it gets rid of it. So that's your hot cues. Now next, let's talk about stems. Now, as I said, you know, stems is a phenomenal feature which we're seeing across pretty much all of the DJ softwares now. It just brings on so much creativity to your mixing. You can do live mashups, because basically how it works is all four of these pads turn into an element of the song. So as I said before, you've got vocal, melody, bass and drums spread across these four pads here. And then whenever you press the pad, it removes that element. So for example, if I press that, that would remove the vocal from this song. Or, you know, you can have the different combinations of it. So if you only want the vocal and the drums, let's say, then you can take out, you know, the bass and the melody, and then you just leave the two that you want. Or you can take all four of them out and it'll go completely silent, or you can just have one, or however it is. Now, I'm not going to get into the complications of stems, but when it comes to like what computer you're using, but it does take quite a high spec computer. So it's worth checking your laptop to see, you know, whether or not it's up to the challenge of using stems in both Juiced and Serato. So then the secondary options of the pad modes on this 200 Mark II, which you get to by hitting shift. So shift and hot cue. This is now the effects, pad effects. So you've got four different pad modes, four different effects on these pads, sorry. You can customize these in Juiced, I think, but haven't figured out a way to do it in Serato DJ Lite. I think that it is just stuck on these four when you're using this with Serato DJ Lite. So you've got an echo, which is, as you can see, post fader. This one here is a flanger. Then this one down here in the bottom left is reverb. And then finally, the fourth one down here, this is a roll effect. So now I should say actually the roll is the only one that you can't use with the filter, but the other three you can combo it up with the filter knob. And obviously that's really good techniques for like transitioning from one song to another. Now the final pad mode on this 200 Mark II, if you hit shift and stems, it takes you to the sampler. There it is, standard. Now I should say on this controller, like there's no physical sampler volume button on the controller. Not that I can figure out anyway. I mean, put it in the comments if there is like a secondary option on one of the knobs, which is the sampler volume, but I can't find it, at least not in Serato DJ Lite. So to control the sampler volume, you do have to physically sort of do that within the software. There's a little volume button along the line of samples in Serato DJ Lite. But you know, great to have the sampler on there. And of course you can customize these samples depending on which software you're using this controller with. So as I said about these performance pads, I call them performance pads, but really they're performance buttons. They're not overly sensitive. So that's not a huge deal, you know, when you're sort of bashing on your sampler for your air horn or whatever. But what I would say, if you're thinking of that sample goes on for so long, if you're thinking of sort of finger drumming hot cues and stuff, which this is advanced stuff, you know, if you're an entry level DJ, you know, you don't really need to be doing that. But what I would say is they're not that sensitive. Like you do have to hit them quite hard to trigger them. So now let's talk about this beat match guide that I mentioned earlier. So you'll notice on the deck sections of this controller, you do have the tempo sliders. What these do, you put them down to speed the tune up, you move them upwards to slow the tune down. That's how you get your songs in time to mix together. What Hercules have got on their controllers, which is such a great feature for beginner DJs, you've got this beat match guide, right, which has got these little LED lights which gives you little nudges on what you should do to get your tune in time. So let me show you how this works. Over here, my tune in channel 1, the speed of this is about 80, well, it's 88 BPM, okay? Now, the song that I've got in channel 2 over here, this is 80 BPM. So they're not going to mix together at this point, you know, they're different speeds, right? So what we need to do, we already know that we need to speed this side up to get it in time. But we know that anyway, right? But this controller actually tells you. So if you look down here, there's this little red mark down here, which means you need to pull this tempo fader down because that's to speed this song up. Now, of course, over here, the red LED is telling you to push this side upwards because it's one or the other, right? Because upwards here, we either slow this side down or we speed this side up to get them in time with each other. So if we just start this tune from the start and we'll get this tune in, you can hear that they're not in time. Now, if we follow the beat match guide, it's telling me that I need to speed this side up, right? And you keep doing it until this red LED disappears. There we go. So you need to find the sweet spot, which is there. So now, as you can see, there's no red LED telling me to speed up or slow down on either channel. That's because both of these tunes are now at the same BPM, therefore can mix together. So that's the tempo bit explained, okay? Now, up here, you've got the beta line section, which, as I mentioned earlier with the jog wheels, you nudge the jog wheels to get the tune perfectly in time with each other. So if I start, we know that these are at the same BPM now, but if I start them at different times, you will see that it's telling me, it will tell me to either slow this one down or speed this one up to get the beats in time with each other and to make the mix sound good. So start that from the start again. Now we start this one. See, it's telling me that this one, I need to slow it down or speed up this one. So if I now, they are in time with each other there, but the phrasing isn't right. So actually, that brings me on to another good feature about these controllers, the Hercules controllers. Up here, the browser, the LED around this browser knob, it changes color with the beat. So in Serato, it turns red on the first beat, right? Which is where you want to be mixing. So if you watch this browser here, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So when that's red, that's when you want to be mixing the next tune in, right? So as you can see here, there's no LEDs on here, so they're in time with each other. And now this is where you use your EQ to mix the tune in and out, or the filter. Let's do the filter, use an effect. And that is how you can use this beat match guide to get your two tunes in time with each other and mix from one tune to the next. So really, really cool feature, that beat match guide. Perfect for beginner DJs who want to learn how to mix. You know, as I said, it's a really nice kind of in-between of like, not just pressing the sync button, which will do the work for you, but also not, you know, having to necessarily just 100% use your ears. It's a nice visual aid. You can do, you know, use a little bit of both. But guys, if you don't want to use that, or you already know how to mix, or you mix by ear, you prefer to mix by ear and not have any beat match guide, you can turn it off by hitting this button here. Bosh, turns the whole thing off. So now, when, as you can see, these two tunes are completely out of time with each other, it's not telling me to nudge or to do anything, so you can completely turn it off and if you don't want to use it. So now then, let's talk ins and outs on this 200 Mark II. very, very minimal here, not gonna lie. There's actually no ins on this controller at all. So there's no aux in, or there's not even a microphone input to this controller, which isn't uncommon. I mean, the DDJ200 doesn't have a microphone in, neither does the new Mark Party Mix, you know, which is in the similar kind of like bracket of this 200 Mark II. So yeah, no inputs, but in terms of outputs, there's one master out, which is an RCA, and it's on the back, and the headphone out is a mini jack 3.5mm on the front, so no 1/4 inch jack on this controller. So actually, real quick one about the master out and the headphones. The master volume is here in the middle, and the headphone volume is there just underneath. Finally, back to the back. The USB out of this controller is a USB-A, which is a bit of a dated connector these days, in my opinion. And as you can see, it's actually hardwired into the back of the controller. Now, I just want to say, I do actually really like Hercules' sort of trademark coiled USB cable, but with it being hardwired into the back, that does worry me quite a lot, especially, you know, you run the risk of like wrapping the cable around the controller to put it away or whatever. Don't do that. Do not do that, because it worries me that if this bends, you know, because it's hardwired in, it'd be very, very hard to fix it or replace it. So I would have preferred to have seen not the USB cable sort of hardwired into this, but also perhaps a USB-C rather than a USB-A. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull out the original Hercules DJControl Inpulse 200, and we'll put them head to head and see what's changed on this Mark II version. So here they are then, head to head. On the top here, the new 200 Mark II, and then under here, the original 200. Now, first thing that I should say is this original 200 was only compatible with Juiced. It wasn't compatible with Serato. So that is like a massive, big thing with this 200 Mark II. You know, having that dual compatibility with Serato and Juiced gets a massive thumbs up from me. But also the other real main difference between these two is that this updated 200 Mark II has got that stems capability, whereas this original 200 doesn't have that. So I mean, going down, because the stems is in the performance pads, as we know, the stems is here on the Mark II, whereas over here, where the stems was, it's actually a roll function instead. But you've got the same sampler on the secondary there and the hot cue in the effects. But yeah, you've got dedicated roll on the original, and then the stems has replaced the dedicated roll on this 200 Mark II. But while we're around these pad modes, as you can see, the pads have improved, in my opinion, on this 200 Mark II. You've got a full coloured pad here, whereas on the original it was just lit up around the outside. I think that's a better look. You know, you get more colour on this new 200 Mark II. And to be fair, like comparing them head to head, size wise, you know, there's no difference really. Weight wise, no difference at all. You've got the same inputs and outputs. There is a few things which actually physically look different comparing the two. As you can see, the jog wheels, although they are the same size, you've got more of a pattern on the original. This Mark II is a bit more stripped back, and actually it does make the jog wheel look bigger on the Mark II, in my opinion. But again, you've got like just more of a stripped back look, you know. It's quite busy here. You've got the like all of this sort of gubbins going on around this original. You've got this grey strip down the middle, which I really like on this Mark II, because it kind of separates the EQ from like the master knobs down the middle. You don't have that on the original here. But I mean, apart from that, it's pretty similar. The only other big difference on this Mark II is that you've got the dedicated loop button here. That button is on the original, and you do have the looping section here, but that button is actually nothing to do with the loop on the original. That's just changing the jog from vinyl mode, turning vinyl mode on and off, which I showed you earlier. That's a secondary function on this 200 Mark II. But I mean, apart from a little bit of sort of, you know, design and the pad modes being different, the stems and Serato on the 200 Mark II, these two controllers aren't that different. But those upgrades, the updates on the Mark II version does make a massive difference. So to conclude then, what do I think of the brand new Hercules DJControl Inpulse 200 Mark II? Mate, it is one of the ideal entry-level DJ controllers. It doesn't break the bank. You know, it's sub £100 or around the £100 mark. Don't know what that is in dollars. But, you know, controllers around this kind of price range, you're not expecting the world from them. You know, you're not really expecting the 3-band EQ. But, you know, you've got 2-band EQ, which are the two important ones, you could argue. You know, you've got the filter on there, which is always great fun and get out of jail free when it comes to clanging mixes. You know, the effects in the pad modes and stuff like that. You've got everything on here, which is great for learning how to DJ, but also having this as a backup controller. And the fact that it's now compatible with Serato as well as Juiced is just, you know, more people obviously use Serato, but it's great that you can dip your toe into both softwares. Speaking of Juiced, fantastic that they've now got stems, and even more fantastic that stems is on a controller in this price point, you know. Stems is such an important part in the way that people are learning how to DJ these days with the live mashups and stuff like that. So it's phenomenal to have it on a controller which isn't breaking the bank. And of course, something which I do really love about all the Hercules DJ controllers is that beat match guide, which is just, it's so helpful. If you're an entry-level DJ, which you probably are if you're buying this controller, it's a really, really great way to learn how to mix. But on top of that as well, Hercules have gone to all the effort with their DJ Academy videos. So, you know, if you want to know sort of mixing techniques and stuff like that on this Impulse 200 Mark II, head over to Hercules' YouTube channel and you can watch all their videos there, not only on this controller, but their other controllers as well. So anyway, gang, I'm going to leave it there. Look, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. Send it to anyone who you think might find it helpful, perhaps someone who's looking into getting into DJing, or, you know, maybe someone that might want to use this as a backup controller, perhaps. Remember to like the video, drop me a comment, let me know what you think about this controller. I mean, this, off the top of my head, is one of the first sort of controllers around this price point that's got that stems, dedicated stems on it, you know. So let me know if you're using stems, what you think of it. In fact, let me know in the comments if you are using Juiced, because I have used Juiced in the past, but, you know, not as much as I've used Serato. So I'd love to know if you're using this with Juiced or Serato. And of course, do not forget to subscribe to the DJKit YouTube channel for so many more videos of me gabbing on about DJ equipment. So anyway, guys, until next time, you take care. Peace.